That sounds good. So good morning or almost afternoon, everyone. I would just like to welcome everybody to CPHR Saskatchewan's annual general meeting. And I'll start first by letting you know who I am. I'm Tamara Tarian. I'm the CPHR Saskatchewan board chair. This is my last hurrah, and I'll be moving into the past chair role after this meeting. So just wanted to let you know that. And I'd like to begin today by doing a land acknowledgement and really to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of the lands that we're all on today. Because we are meeting today on a virtual platform, I would just like us all to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands that we each call home and the Métis homeland and the treaties recognized in those territories in which we are conducting our meeting. So thank you all for being here today. Before we move forward with the agenda proper, I do have a few reminders for you all today. So for voting purposes at today's meeting, your name does need to appear on the screen. If you didn't enter it or edit it before the meeting, don't worry. You can certainly do it now. If you click on participants at the bottom of your screen, you can find your name in the list of participants, select more, and you'll have the opportunity to rename. So updating that will edit your screen name then as it appears in the meeting. You can also open the chat at the bottom of your window. You can type in here anytime throughout the meeting. The chat does default to everyone in the meeting, so please keep that in mind. Please click the mic and the camera at the bottom of your screen to mute and hide yourself. If there's a red line through them, they are off. But if you want to let us all see your smiling faces, I am perfectly fine with that. We've been meeting virtually for so long. It's lovely to see people with their cameras on. So notice of the AGM and the AGM package was emailed to all members on August 25th. You would have also received the documents for today's meeting in a link in your calendar invite and in the meeting notice. So if you could please just take a moment to find that. It includes the agenda, meeting minutes from September 16th of 2021, the annual report, the nominating report, and the 2022 audited financial statements. If you cannot find it, you can also log into your account at CPHR Saskatchewan and go to the tab Who We Are -AGM. And I know because I did this once already, you could also just go into the little search bar and type AGM and it will pop right up with everything that you need. So the process for the virtual AGM, we will be calling for a motion, we'll have discussion, and then when final approval is called, we will, please say your name, we'll assume that it's carried unless we hear otherwise. So that's the process that we will go through. Leanne Paulishin, Marketing and Events Manager, will be taking the minutes today. And for your information, the AGM will also be recorded and available on the website following the AGM. So with that, we'll get started and I will call the meeting to order at 12:05 5 p.m. So the first portion of our meeting is just to confirm our voting delegates. And we do know that 51 people were registered for the AGM and we're expecting to participate virtually, and we did receive 7 proxies. Under the admin bylaws 11.3, quorum of our membership is 25 voting members at the commencement of a duly constituted meeting for quorum. And so with 29 participants in this meeting today and the 7 proxies we've received, we do have quorum to conduct this meeting. Our voting members do include professional, candidates, associates, general, and students. Do you have anything else you might want to say there, Nicole?
Yes, so I do know our auditors on the line, Clint. We will go through, and Clint would not be a voting member. However, we do have enough for quorum, and we will go through the list. That's why we do need your name, please, to show up as the participant, and then we will confirm. But we have enough to go ahead.
Perfect.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
So moving into agenda item 2, then I would like to, I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda, and then we can have any discussion if anyone has anything to add. So can I call for a motion to approve?
I so move, Tamara. It's Lee Knaffel.
Thank you, Lee. Do I have a seconder?
Larry Flowers.
Aaron Taylor.
Larry, I heard Larry.
Okay, Larry, thank you, Larry. Is there any discussion or anything else anyone feels that they need to add to the agenda today? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to assume that this motion is approved unless I hear otherwise. Okay, so carried then. Moving on to item number 3 then, which is approval of the minutes from September 16th, 2021, AGM. This information again was put out in your package when you received the meeting notice. So I'd like to call for a motion to approve the minutes of the September 16th, 2021 AGM.
I can move that line.
Thank you, Lionel. Thank you, Shauna, seconded. Any discussion about the minutes from September 16th of 2021? Any errors, omissions, or details that any member would like to point out? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to assume that the minutes of September 16th, 2021 are carried unless I hear any dialogue to the contrary. Okay, thank you for that. So the next item on our agenda today is the annual report, and I hope you've all had an opportunity to take a look at our annual report and the information that's contained within it. Obviously, over the last 2 years, our association has had a lot of changes, both in terms of our professional standards, and we received regulation and self-regulation, and you know, it's really been a pivotal time for human resources as a profession working through the pandemic. I do have obviously a few highlights I would like to speak to with respect to the annual report, and the first area, of course, that I want to highlight is self-regulation and what that means for us as a profession, and what that has meant for us as a board over this last year. Protecting people at work, and is a really great name for our annual report, because obviously with self-regulation, the most important thing for us to be considering is our role in protecting the public interest. And for us, learning to be a regulated association has come with a steeper learning curve than we anticipated. We do have Nicole as our CEO, who has been working very hard and networking with other regulated professions to understand how the legislation really changes us as an association, and what our role is, both within the province of Saskatchewan and also in the context of the HR profession and CPHR Canada. So this has been a real learning year for us, and your board has been really digging in to learn and be educated and to understand the legislation and what our roles and responsibilities are. And as a human resources profession, I think that you know, this was fantastic recognition for us as a profession, and it really allows us to stand up this profession side by side with other regulated professions in the province and in the country. I'd also like to call out all of the work that has been done with respect to accreditation of post-secondary institutions to allow individuals who are pursuing their CPHR designation to pursue an NKE waiver. And to date now, we have accredited Sask Polytech, Edwards School of Business, Paul J. Hill School of Business, and we've been working with the Levine Graduate School as well. And so I think this is really exciting news for us. I've certainly heard firsthand from a lot of individuals who are interested in pursuing their CPHR designation. People are really seeing renewed value in the designation now that our association is self-regulated. And I think going forward in the future, there will be more and more individuals that seek out that recognition. And we're hoping that our marketing efforts across Canada will raise even more brand awareness for that designation. And so accrediting those post-secondary institutions makes that pathway a little bit easier for those that have chosen those facilities to complete their studies. Also in January of 2022, we also introduced the foundational courses to human resources, and that is called out in the annual report as well. Just helps those that don't have a degree or a diploma in human resources understand the foundational courses and competencies that we believe as a profession are required to pursue that CPHR. And as well, in the annual report, you'll see a lot of interesting information about the professional development that we have done over the course of the last year. Most of it has continued to be virtual, but I know as a participant in those virtual events, they have we've had some excellent speakers and excellent education, and I hope that this continues to drive value for the members. There's also CPHR Canada has also done some work on ethics training, and I'd just like to remind everyone that part of your obligations in terms of professional development over a 3-year rolling period is to spend 3 hours invested in ethics training. And I did take the one personally that was on the CPHR website, and I can tell you firsthand it was very well done, and certainly something that you should look into if you haven't already done that. So I think those are the points that I would make about the annual report. We still have lots of work to do on awareness and lots of learning to do with respect to our obligations to protect the public interest as we move more fully into self-regulation. There's lots of stats in the report for your information, and of course I also feel that I need to call out all the fantastic work that our volunteers, our board, and our staff do to keep CPHR Saskatchewan functioning on a daily basis. We absolutely couldn't do any of this without you. At this time, I think it's really important that I take a moment to introduce the staff of CPHR Saskatchewan, and I'm just going to ask that you flip your cameras on and do a little bit of a wave so people know who you are. So I'm going to start with our very fantastic CEO. Nicole Norton-Scott. She's the CEO of CPHR Saskatchewan, and she's been with us almost 11 years now. Give us a wave. Okay, we also have Leanne Paulishin, who is our manager of marketing and events. Do you got your camera on there, Leanne? There she is.
I think so. I think I'm here. Hello.
Yeah, I can see you now. Okay, and we have Holly Garan, who is our manager of professional standards. and our newest staff member, Armanpreet Kaur, and she is our member relations coordinator. Welcome. Okay, so we will now move.
Camera, I'm just, for sake of clarity, because there's some people on here that may say, well, Levine School of Business is already accredited as well. And of course, in the annual report, just to remind everybody, we report, the annual report ends April 30th. So the fiscal year is what we're reporting on. So post April 30th of 2022, we actually did accredit Levine. So if you're sitting there and you're from Levine and you heard that news, it is true. It was accredited, but it was accredited after the annual report. And I just want one more point of clarification is the ethics requirement is for those of you with the designation that need to do CPD. So not everyone has to do the ethics requirement. It is for CPD.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes, just a couple pieces. Thank you.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, moving into section 5 of our agenda then. We're moving forward into our new business category, and the first area that we'll be talking about is board member recognition. CPHR Saskatchewan board has 3 departing directors. One is Shauna Flaman, one is Jill Solomon, and the other is Jordan Zarnecki, and he is our student director. So we would just like to take a few moments to recognize each one of them. And I'd like to call upon Lee to say a few words about Jill.
All right, thanks, Tamara, and good afternoon, everyone. It seems like every year I have this bittersweet task of bidding adieu to colleagues from this board. But of course, the flip side is we've got great new directors coming on as well. But I really want to take a moment to give a great shout out to Jill Solomon. It's really my honor to thank Jill for her great work. You know, I've decided to forego all the stale jokes about accountants and HR people and all of that stuff. And I will just say that Jill is someone who, when I think about Jill, I think of someone who is passionate about professionalism. She is a person who is committed to high standards, and she's highly engaged to this profession. And every one of us who practices HR in this province, and frankly, anyone who is touched by HR in this province, owes a debt of gratitude to Jill for her amazing work on this board and certainly in her career and other contacts as well. Jill joined our board of the board of directors in 2016, and she's completing her third term, her 6th year on the board in the role of treasurer. She chairs the Audit, Finance, and Risk Committee, and she also participated in recent years on the HR Professional Standards Committee of the board. She previously served as a director on the CPHR Canada board, and she was a member of the National Standards Committee, both of which are big commitments to represent this province on the national stage. She's passionate, as I said, about her professional education and the process of certification for HR professionals. Jill was often at meetings and discussions. Jill would be the one we'd say, well, Jill, what's the background on that from a professional standards or a certification perspective? We would always ask her for her expertise. Her involvement in educational standards and professional certification dates back nearly 30 years in her former role within the accounting profession as a director of education for Saskatchewan. Jill obtained her CPHR designation in 2008, and prior to that, or as well, and along with that, is a professional accountant as well. Jill retired in May of 2020 from the University of Saskatchewan, where she had overall responsibility for human resources, finance, and executive education at the Edwards School of Business. It's where I first got to know Jill. I'm sure many of you interacted with her in that role, as did I in my prior role, and I always had tremendous respect for her professionalism and her expertise. On the personal side, Jill enjoys golf and spending time with her family. She has 3 grandchildren who keep her busy, and her family in BC, where she loves to spend time as well. So Jill, on behalf of all of us here, the entire board, staff, volunteers, everyone in this province who calls HR something that's important for us, we thank you. We thank you for your service to this board. Bravo.
Couldn't have been better said, Lee. Thank you so much, and thank you very, very much, Jill. I would like to call on Sarah now, Sarah Johnston, to say a few words about Jordan.
Hi, first of all, Jordan, I just want to say a big thank you. As mentioned earlier, Jordan joined the CPHR Saskatchewan Board of Directors in 2020 as our student director and was also a member of the Marketing and Membership Committee of the board, which I was chairing. So I had the opportunity to work directly with Jordan, which was great. He has a lot of wonderful input and, differing opinions. So it was lovely to work with you, Jordan. Jordan recently completed his Bachelor of Business Administration at the University of Regina with a major in Human Resource Management and is currently working for the government of Saskatchewan. Now, Jordan, I just want to stop and make sure that's accurate because I just saw on LinkedIn that you got a new position, if I'm correct. So if you can unmute, I don't know if you can, but you can correct me on where you're currently working.
You are correct. I just started with Staff Builds as their Senior Culture Coordinator.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Jordan. Congratulations. That's awesome. You've worked for the provincial government in multiple ministries and is also currently living and working in Regina. He's also working towards his CPHR designation. Through his work experience, Jordan has been able to develop and facilitate team building and development workshops, something that has definitely sparked his passion for HR. Jordan has been the director of the Regina Folk Festival since 2018. And in his free time, he enjoys gardening and traveling. I want to wish you all the best, Jordan. It was lovely working with you and getting to know you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and congratulations, Jordan, on your new role. And thank you very much for your service to the CPHR Saskatchewan Board. I'm now going to say a few things about Shauna Flaman. She is also completing her third term with us. She's in her second year of her third term. Shauna is one of the very first people I met when I myself joined the CPHR Saskatchewan board. And, I was impressed by her professionalism, her knowledge of her discipline, and as well her exuberance and her zest for life. Shauna is one of those people that we could always rely on to be extremely prepared for the board meetings. She provides us sound advice, and if there's ever a detail that is missed, Shauna is the first one to point that out and to keep us on the straight and narrow. So she's been just a fabulous trusted advisor and friend to all of us over these years. Shauna is a chartered professional in human resources with over 28 years of experience in the HR profession. In her day job, she's the Senior Director of Strategic Services in the human resources area with Farm Credit Canada, who is one of CPHR Saskatchewan's great partners. Shauna joined the CPHR Saskatchewan Board of Directors in 2016. And as I said, she's completing her third term, which is her 6th year on our board. She's participated actively in the HR and Governance Committee, the Audit Committee, the Risk and Finance Committee, and the Marketing and Membership Committees of the board. So basically, Shauna, there isn't a single committee she hasn't participated on and contributed her wealth of knowledge to. She and her team at Farm Credit also assist the corporation or the association with compensation reviews for CPHR Saskatchewan staff, and we thank her for her expertise and her diligence in volunteering to have that done for the association. It's been very much appreciated by us. Shauna is also very active in the community, serving as a board director with Ignite Adult Learning Corporation and the Regina Food Bank. And as I said earlier, she has a zest for life and is always smiling and positive. She's been a very much a pleasure for us all to work with on the board. And outside of work, Shauna loves to spend time with family and friends. They have a cottage at Diefenbaker, and she is looking forward to touring Greece this fall. So I wish I was in your suitcase, Shauna. So thank you on behalf of the board for all of the work that you have done over the last 6 years.
Thank you, Tamara, and you are also welcome. Thank you so much.
Moving on then to the second part of our new business today. We're going to be talking about the ratification of the board nominees. You will have all received the nominating committee report within your package. And we do have a proposed slate of candidates to discuss today. The package that you have in front of you also has information within it that gives you the bios of each of the individuals that we're looking to move forward with. So in accordance with the bylaws, the following directors are within their approved terms of office, and we are recommending that they continue on the board. And that is Amy Gibson and Sarah Johnston. Myself, I will be completing my second year of a 2-year term, and I'll be moving into the role of past chair. Our chair-elect, Lee Knaffel, will be moving into the role of chair for a 1-year term. And then we have a number of other proposed slates, and we're pleased to recommend the following candidates for election. The first is a nomination for chair-elect, and we're pleased to recommend Lionel Tatousis. And we're also proposing that we re-elect to a 2-year term pursuant to the admin bylaws. Jeff Hepp, board director.
Sorry, Tamara, it's on a time.
That's okay. Regan Lowe and Leah Regent. And then election to their first 2-year term, Tracy Hepworth, Janelle Payant, Norman Peel, Preetma Manohar, and Shauna Wilkinson. So I would like to call for a motion to approve the board nominees for the 2022-23 year.
Kevin Skog would like to move a nomination.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Sarah. And I'll open up the floor for any discussion. I will comment that we had a lot of interest this year in board positions, and we're extremely pleased with the board nominees for this year, both in terms of the industries in which they're participating, the geography that they're coming from, the diversity that they bring, and we just feel that we have a very well-rounded slate to present to you this year that will ensure the legacy of CPHR Saskatchewan moving forward into the coming years. So if I could just, I'm just going to call for, I guess, call for a vote, and I'm going to assume it's carried unless I hear otherwise.
And if all the directors of this board, put your cameras on.
And give us a wave.
Yeah.
Saka. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, so hearing none, that is carried, Nicole. And we'll move now into the approval of the 2022 audited statements and the appointment of the auditor. So we'll call upon our board treasurer, Jill Solomon.
Thank you very much, Tamara and Nicole. Just before I start, I just want to say what a pleasure it has been to have been involved with this board for the last 6 years. The staff, all of the staff that I've worked with over that period of time, and all of the different board of directors that have been there, come and gone. They've just been so committed and made the experience so positive. It's been such an interesting time, and I feel really privileged to have had this opportunity. So thank you so much. I will update that it's 8 grandchildren. So anyway, I will do a quick overview of the pages in the financial section of this annual report. And then I'm going to introduce our auditor, Clint Saholsky from the firm MWC, Chartered Professional Accountants, LLP, to walk and talk about some of the specific idiosyncrasies in this report, but I will go through the statements first. So to let you know, the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee met with our auditor on August 19th to review and discuss the draft audited statements and audit report. And the board then met and approved these drafts on August the 23rd for recommendation to bring forward to this annual general meeting. The first page in the package behind the title page is the management's responsibilities statement, which is telling the reader that the way the statements have been prepared is in accordance with Canadian standards for not-for-profit organizations. And where there are approved choices for presentation, it is CPHR management who is making the appropriate choices. So these are management's and the association's statements. There is a set system of designated policies and procedures, competent staff, oversight from our CEO and from the board of directors that is to give you confidence in the statements that are being presented. The next page is the auditor's report, indicating what their responsibility is, what they do, their opinion, and our auditor will be discussing that piece for you. The actual financial statements themselves consist of a group of statements: the statement of financial position, the statement of operations, which explains the revenues and expenses for the year, the statement of changes in net assets, a cash flow statement, and the accompanying notes to the financial statements. So the first statement, in the statement of financial position, we can see that the majority of the assets of CPHR Saskatchewan are held in cash and secure near cash investments. These balances are similar to the prior year, with our investments having increased because we invested excess cash after the 2021 year end. We have very little in the way of physical hard capital assets because we lease our office space. So our only physical assets are some furniture and office equipment and our office software systems, all of which are amortized over 5 or less years. Our other trade receivables, prepaid expenses, short-term payables, GST payable, and wages payable are consistent with the prior years. We have slightly higher trade payables this year because we had our major conference at the end of March, and there's some outstanding invoices as at the April 30th year end. Some things don't come in immediately, and so you can't pay them, but we still set up what we believe that we will be owing, and so that's sitting there as a liability. Member prepayments are the dues for the next year, so for the upcoming May 1 to April 30th, 2023 year, that were received before the end of April. So they're received in advance from some of our members, and they have to sit there as a liability at April 30th because they relate to the coming year. We haven't provided them the service of their membership until the start of the next year. These amounts will be reported as revenue along with all the rest of our member dues when collected and recorded in the upcoming 2023 year. Our net assets for the year have increased by $61,802, which is equal to the excess of revenues over expenses for the current year as detailed in the statement of operations. So the statement of operations, our revenue expenses for the year, shows us that the 2022 year was a busy one with more operating activity and increases in corresponding revenues and expenses. We had a small increase in membership dues, as well as increased member numbers, resulting in higher overall member dues revenue. In addition, our revenues from advertising, primarily from job postings, were significantly increased, and our conference and member event revenues were also significantly better than in the prior year. The only major decrease this year was related to the Canada Wage Subsidy, which makes sense as this program benefited us in the 2020-2021 COVID period, but the program ended shortly into this 2022 fiscal year. Expenses increased as our activities increased. We were fully staffed throughout the year, and programming activity and costs increased as we geared up to normal activity as a self-regulated professional association under our legislation. We finished the year with a net surplus, or excess of revenues over expenses, as I previously stated, of $61,802. That amount would have been more closer to $47,000, except that we did get almost $14,000 in CEWS subsidy at the beginning of the year. In-person meetings started up in the latter half of this fiscal year, and you can see there are travel expenses once again showing up in our expense statement. And it's exciting to be back in person as much as we can be. The next two statements are required as part of the overall financial reporting package and give us another way to present or restate what was covered in the first two statements. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. Our net assets increased by the $61,000, and our cash position changed from our accounting-based income of $61,802, which adjusts up and down for items that affect cash. This statement explains how our cash position increased overall by $59,270. This is significantly less than in the prior year, primarily because we did not have the same amount of cash inflow from the Canada Employment Wage Subsidy Program, or CEWS. The notes to the financial statements present additional information about our organization, talks about our accounting policies, about specific individual items in the statements. I know our auditor is going to spend some time discussing this, so I will leave that in his very capable hands. I would like to now introduce our auditor, Clint Saholsky, partner with MWC Chartered Professional Accountants. And after Clint walks us through the auditor section, I will introduce a motion to approve the audited financial statements and if there are any questions that may arise. Thanks very much. I guess Clint.
I assume you just want me to start. I was going to drag it outside a longer presentation. If you can flip back, first, thanks for having me at the meeting, AGM. Sure glad we're traveling and seeing everyone in person. Wait, we're not. Anyways, not yet. So if we can go back, yeah, right there. So the independent auditors report, this is technically what we are here to provide. I should indicate that our job as auditors is primarily, it's a general purpose financial statement. So the term auditor is often thrown around in many different realms and roles and facets of you hear about it. Most commonly is a tax auditor from, say, Canada Revenue Agency. Those are completely different purpose. We are ones that are an external auditor, independent from your organization, who's engaged to look at the financial statements and using our assessment of the organization's operations, controls, and processes, along with our verification of figures, determine whether the financial statements that Jill went over are presented in accordance with accounting standards. The accounting standards that you folks fall under is accounting standards for not-for-profit. That's the most reasonable and expected use of the standards is acceptable for your organization. You could use an enhanced standard of international financial reporting standards, but the cost associated with those engagements would exceed the benefit. No one is requiring, in terms of regulatory body membership or so on, of anything beyond the nonprofit standards, which handles most organizations of your size. In fact, just about all. There's no point in incurring extra costs. So our job then is, are the statements presented fairly? So we start off a little bit, a tiny little writing there, and it says opinion. And so that's our job here, is to provide an opinion. Are they fair presentation financial statements? And yes, they are. Our basis of opinion concludes that they are presented fairly in accordance with the accounting standards, and it's what's considered to be an unmodified, or in layman's terms, a clean audit opinion. So that's great. That's exactly what an organization would hope to have. Following that is the only little difference or add-on that we would have in accordance with a regular audit reports. And this is the abnormality that Joe was referring to, and it says emphasis of matter. If we took that paragraph out, the rest of the report would be a standardized report prescribed to be used by all auditors for all engagements. So there's no departure or anything from that standard reporting. The emphasis of matter simply reports to something, it points to something that's already in your financial statements. And it's the auditor's way of saying, hey, in the statements, shy of, possibly falling asleep while you read them, but say you were interested in it and you got past all the numbers and everything else that's so dynamically exciting, we would say, what else are we focusing on? And that would be, for your organization, the significant change that you folks have done over the last 2 years has resulted in, if we could just keep going to note 2, a subsequent event. So the subsequent event is that in the obtaining of the actual regulatory, self-regulatory body, there is a change in your legal entity behind the scenes. And so because of that, we have the end of one reporting body and the beginning of another reporting body from a legal entity standpoint. From what anyone else is concerned about, nothing would look different. You see the CPHR, Saskatchewan, Charter Professional and Human Resources, everything will continue the same. And so what is happening though is that because one entity is no longer the enacted body, everything is transferring over to a new entity. And that's being done as effective May 1st of the 2022 year. So it's right after this year end. That enables us then to have comparative figures and be able to show a comparison between the years. And more importantly is legal counsel has confirmed that really, even though there is 2 entities there, the responsibilities remain between the 2 of them, and they continue on until we are finally at a point to dissolve the one entity. And the dissolution is simply because it's done. It's no longer over here. It's almost like an analogy I used was we've opened a new location and we're moving from the old location. So in essence, we're not running 2 stores. We just have one. We're going to close one once we're all in to the new one. As far as anyone else is concerned, we stay in business as per normal until we move locations. And that's in essence is what's going to happen, what is meant by the dissolution of the entity. The association, nothing is changing. You're already in place and you've already been operating in the new entity anyways. And so for membership wise, there's no concern, no issues. It's more of just a technicality because behind the scenes, even in nonprofit organizations, is other filings that have to be done. Not only with corporations, branch, regulatory bodies, but Canada Revenue Agency as well. They require a tax return, even though we're nonprofit. You're not subject to tax. You're still a corporation. They still get a tax return. So there's those kind of items that have to be dealt with subsequent to the year end and as well as on an annual basis. So there's no point carrying 2 corporations for completing the end of one, starting another. And that's all that audit report was referring to in regards to, hey, go look at note 2. Outside of that, the rest of the financial statements are a pretty standard presentation of what's required for the information. We don't have any no concerns or issues from the auditor standpoint. The end. I'm not sure if
The end.
Thank you, Clint. Jill, do you want to call for that motion?
Yes, thank you very much, Clint. So yes, I would like to move that we approve the audited financial statements for the year ended April 30th, 2022.
Thank you, Jill. May I have a seconder, please?
Lionel.
Thank you, Lionel. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will assume it is carried unless someone speaks to the contrary. Okay, thank you very much. That motion is carried. Thank you so much, Jill, and also Clint for all of your work in preparing our financial statements and for the diligence which is exercised in presenting them as well. Moving on to the almost final item on the agenda today.
do you want me to do the?
Yes, you do need to. Yes, absolutely. Sorry, Jill. Go
Uh,
ahead.
Okay, thank you. I also would like to point out that that as our auditors, Clint keeps us on our toes and occasionally asks us some pretty tough questions, and we respect very much the work that they do. And so with that lead up, I'm going to make a motion for the approval of the appointment of MWC Chartered Professional Accountants LLP as auditors for the 2022-23 year.
Perfect. Can I have a seconder, please?
Sharon Taylor.
Thank you, Sharon. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will assume that we have approved the appointment of MWC unless there's any voice to the contrary. Okay, that's carried. Thank you, Jill. Sorry for just about steamrolling over that that last agenda item for you. Finally, we'd like to just point out that, you know, pursuant to Clint's explanation here about the dissolution of the old corporation and the creation of the new one. As he mentioned in the financial statements, we are working on this transition behind the scenes. We will clarify that there's no member, board member, or staff member that is impacted directly. We will be calling a special meeting of the members in the near future to officially dissolve the old entity, CPHR Saskatchewan Corporation, and basically it moves us from that non-profit entity CPHR and creates the professional association entity CPHR Saskatchewan. So if anyone has any questions about this, please let us know. Nicole and I are open to any as well following this meeting, but this is for your information at this time. Is there any questions? Okay, hearing none. Oh, Lionel has asked Nicole, same number of people needed for meeting? Yes.
Yes. You have to be there, Lionel.
Okay, moving on to our final business for today then.
I think this is it.
I think it is. So we have some great PD opportunities coming up with the virtual forum on October 4th and 5th. So if you haven't registered, please consider doing so and promoting it to other HR professionals that you know. It's always fantastic content. And we also have member receptions that we're going to be doing in person, November 22nd and 23rd. So we really do look forward to connecting and are excited to see you guys. We're hoping at some point during the 2023 year, we will move forward with more in-person events. So this is us getting our feet wet, and we hope that you'll join us for some appetizers, beverages, and some conversation coming up in Saskatoon and Regina in November. And we have one more slide, and we would just like to congratulate our board member, Sarah Johnston, on the arrival of Elizabeth York. And we have hashtagged her a future CPHR. So congratulations, Sarah.
Oh, thank you. She's actually in my arms right now here as well.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah, she's very sweet. Thank you so much. She'll definitely be a future CPHR. She has no choice.
Okay, thanks to everybody for attending for today. I know that we run kind of a tight ship and do our AGM over the lunch hour. So thanks for giving up that time for us. And I would like to call for a motion at this time for adjournment.
Kevin Skog would like to move a motion to adjourn the 2022 AGM. Amen.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Well,
So our meeting is adjourned at 12:51. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll see you at one of the member receptions.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, I want to come see her soon, Sarah.
I know, she's so sweet.
I
Like,
know.
she's ridiculous. So
I know, and they're
Anyways.
so tiny. I love when they're so tiny.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.